My skin is black.
What you looking
My
at?
skin
Yeah,
is black.
I feel so good to be black right now.
is black.
What you
All right,
looking at?
welcome to episode 82 of the Black in Fashion podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And of course, I have to start every episode by acknowledging our amazing sponsors. This episode is sponsored by The Assembly Line. The Assembly Line is a full-service fashion consulting firm that focuses on cultivating and developing emerging talent by providing resources and guidance on all fronts. They provide various services including project management, brand building, creative services, product development, and all-around consulting to build new brands and elevate established fashion businesses. Their mission is to empower entrepreneurs at any stage of their business and is here to help build your brand from concept to consumer and everything in between. So today I am joined by Krystal.
Hi, guys.
And she is a designer of kafil. I said it right. And she also has a blog, a fashion magazine. It's called Kafil.
The World of Kafil.
The World of Kafil. Yeah, she actually did a story on me a little while ago. You did like the
Yes.
spotlight of the month, and then she also has like her Clubhouse series. So she's a very well-rounded and versed fashion professional, I would say. So we're gonna do our little icebreaker. I like to hop into everyone by doing my little game. It's this or that. All right. Skinny leg or wide leg?
Wide.
Side boob or under boob?
Side.
Wedge or mule?
Mule.
Okay, now I hear it. Fedora or beret?
Beret.
Beret. I'm here for it. Oh, one more. Studs or hoops?
Hoops.
Okay. I like
girl.
it.
I'm a hoop
I'm here for it. So, Krystal, I like our space to just be more of a conversation and like less of like an interview. So, I just want to learn a little bit about your background, how you got started in fashion, where you're from, and how you got to where you are.
So, I started out, well, first of all, I'm from the Bronx. My parents are Jamaican, so I am a Jamaican American, but I will say I am very much so Jamaican. I grew up in the Bronx, but I went to school in different places in Mount Vernon, and then high school in the Bronx, and then I went to FIT for college. My first job out of college was, well, actually, let me backtrack. I got hired at a company to do production. And the day I was supposed to start, they did not answer the phone or my email to tell me what I was supposed to be doing. So that job went away, and I had to go back on the job market. And then I started working at Century 21 as a buyer and allocator, an assistant buyer, an allocator. So I allocated bras and panties to all the Century 21 stores, and I bought Junior's lingerie.
Oh, nice.
I
I
didn't-
worked crazy. The last time I had a job, that's what I did. Lingerie and sleepwear.
Really?
And then panties and bras. The last time I had a job, that's what I did that for 2 years.
Yeah, that
Product
was not
development.
for me. That was a lot. Like, there's so many bra sizes. Like, granted, I knew there was a lot, but I don't know how many they actually were.
Sound like a lot of SKUs.
A lot of SKUs, and it wasn't too many stores, but like every color, every size, thinking about the demand and fulfilling all that, and then buying it. It just wasn't for me. So I moved on to a job in production at a company called Castle Hill Apparel. I worked there for about maybe 9 months, and I got laid off. It was pretty slow, so it wasn't a shock to me, but I was like, damn, what am I going to do? And then I got another job at Macy's as a product development manager in the training program, and I worked there for 8 years. And I worked under a few brands, and I, really cultivated my skills and learned a lot. I worked there for 8 years, and then I got laid off actually last February before the pandemic hit, and it was like a blessing in disguise. Backtracking, I've always wanted to be a designer, obviously. My name, Kafil, is something that I doodled in my notebook in high school literally every single day, and I guess I was manifesting it at the time, and I didn't even know. But I finally brought it to fruition. But it was really my sister who came to me one day when I was sketching in my bedroom, and she was kind of just like, I see you sketching, and I want to start a business. Let's do it together. And I was like, okay. If it wasn't for her, I don't think I would have even gotten to this point. But
Did she go to design school?
No, she has a marketing background. I didn't go to design school either. I went to school for production management. But I took a few design classes, but I never thought that I had the design skill. Like, I couldn't sketch. I didn't know how to sew. I didn't know what pattern making was. And my first year in FIT was like, I was like, where am I? Because this is not what I signed up for. But I really enjoyed pattern making. It was very challenging, but I really enjoyed it. So I finished my degree in production management, and then production management was just like a broad range of everything. So I did merchandising, I did design, I did pattern making, I did pretty much every little thing. But it really was like planning out your factory and your time management, and I had to literally draw a factory blueprint by hand.
So you did the project management curriculum at FIT.
That was my degree, production management.
That's my senior manager, Hadassah. That's what her degree is in. But she switched
really?
it to that after like just being my mentee. And I didn't even know that FIT had that program. She had a design background and she was doing design. And then she switched it over after like working with me. And that's what her degree is. She just graduated last May.
Oh, I honestly, I didn't know what it was. I was like, I'm just going to get into this school. I don't know what it was because I was going to go to school for physical therapy. I got a full scholarship to LIU and I was like, this is not really what I want to do. But I didn't think I could be a designer. I'm like, I can't draw. What am I doing? And I was like, I'm just going to get anywhere I fit in and see. I was going to do merchandising. Like, I'm just going to buy cute clothes. And I realized merchandising is being a buyer. And I was not.
It's a lot of math.
It's a lot of math. And it's more math than it is creative.
Okay.
So long story short, I did that. But my job at Macy's ended up being merchandising. Product development at Macy's is really merchandising. So I did merchandising for 8 years. So I can build an assortment. I can do all that. Like I stuck it out because I was getting paid well and I had to survive. And I was funding my other company, like as I was saying that I started with my sister called Marie and Annette. And we did that for about 5 years. And I just got to a point where I had just had my daughter and I had just left my relationship with her father. And I was at a point in my life, I was like, I just need to change. And like, I want to do things my way, the way I want to do it. And, it was a hard decision to make, to say like, I kind of want to branch out on my own to my sister. And, I felt like I was, betraying her in some way, but I wasn't. And, she had her own project she wanted to work on. She just bought a house. So she had things, but.
Wait, are y'all twins or y'all just sisters?
We are not twins. We are 4 years apart.
Really?
People always think we're twins, though.
Me and my sister are 4 years apart, but I don't know why I thought y'all was twins.
I mean, I'm the younger one, but I don't understand how they think we are the same age because
I'm
I clearly look younger.
And I feel the same way. I'm 4 years younger than my sister, and I get that all the time. I'm just like, but I look younger.
Exactly.
I don't understand.
But people think we're twins all the time, and no, we do not have the same face. But I don't know. I don't know what it is, but we have the same mannerisms. I'll say that. We talk fast, clearly.
Right.
but people always think we're twins. But no. But we had that company for about 5 years, and it did well, honestly. But I wanted to just do something. I wanted to really fulfill my dream of having my own line, and I decided to go for it in 2019, and then 2020 hit, and then we all know what happens there.
So question, so you had already went to FIT, and you had got the production management degree. So when we met in the Emerging Designers program. How did you feel about that incentive bit? At the time I was a production manager at a company at the time, and they actually paid for me to go. Had I had paid for that shit myself, I'd have been very upset. That's kind of how I felt after the program. I'm just like, this to me is something that you would have learned in if you had the production management or design. I didn't really feel like the Emerging Designers program was really, I don't know, you tell me how you feel. I didn't feel like it was really helpful. Like, was it like repeat information? Like, did you already know all that stuff?
I knew some of it, like the financial piece of it. I didn't know in depth, but I knew the top level of it. So to me, I wasn't very engaged in the program. So if it was something that I'm like, wow, I never knew about this, I would be more engaged. But
is that a dog?
Yes.
Oh no, he done lost his mind. You better shut up.
Yeah, I don't know. My sister, I think she found it helpful because she didn't go to design school at all. She went to Clark Atlanta for marketing. So
Gotcha.
I was kind of sitting there, and I had literally just had my daughter. So my mind, was not in that space, but it wasn't anything that I was like so foreign to me. I was just like,
that's how I felt. I was just like.
It wasn't super foreign.
I was like, and then some of the stuff to me was outdated that they were teaching, and I didn't like that. And I'm just like, they overcomplicating the production process, and it don't even have to be that complicated. So it always made me wonder though, like that's just an accelerated program. How is the programs at FIT? Because I've seen that a lot of people come out of FIT and, especially in the design, I'm talking about design. I think the production management program is great, and I am a witness to that because my senior manager is the bomb. The strategy, the production, she knows how to do everything. But it scares me as far as the design process goes. Like their design program, are y'all really teaching them to be successful in these programs? Because there's too many people that went to FIT that don't know how to do pattern making, and you went to school for design. And it's just so crazy to me that you don't know how to do pattern making and you went to FIT.
Right. So I know they had a pattern making major at one time, but I don't think design was focused in on pattern making. They did more draping, but you have to put your drapes on a pattern anyway. Yeah. So I don't really know, but they had a pattern making certificate program. I know that. But at one point, I have a friend who went to FIT, and she got her associates in pattern making, but they did away with the program after she graduated. That I think in 2008.
Gotcha.
That program went away.
That's when I started college.
If I'm not mistaken, I graduated in 2010. So we did production management together. Also, she's now a technical designer. But I feel like Parsons, and I don't want to, I love my, school, but I feel like Parsons has a better design program. I
think so too, because I think Parsons and maybe Pratt, and I also think in Atlanta, SCAD has a good program. I've seen people come out of that, and I've seen people come out of Columbia College Chicago. That's why I went, so I'm always going to big that up. I think I had a great program too.
I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. So, just this whole transition and coming from more of more of the business side of fashion background into evolving into a designer and stuff like that. How do you feel like you really learned about fabrications and color and honestly to creating an assortment, breadth of variety, and make it successful, even from Marie Antoinette all the way into Kafil?
I definitely think it's been a process, and I have grown throughout the years. I think about my first collection I ever designed, and it was not, in my opinion, now looking back, it was not cohesive at all. It wasn't but I learned about fabric through trial and error, and also just working at Macy's and hearing little things. I worked in sweaters for a majority of the time, so I did a lot of yarn development and stuff like that. But then I moved into knits, but it was all trial and error. So I started off using a lot of silk.
Okay.
Because that was just
we know.
it was more accessible, but I just liked it. I liked how it draped. I liked how it felt, and I wanted something that was more elevated. But it was trial and error, figuring out everything. The good part for me was my job as a production associate. I worked in the sample room, so everything that I had to do, I kind of leaned on those ladies there. So they did all of my first samples. I worked with their friends to do my patterns.
Nice.
That was I didn't know why I was in that space, because I'm not learning as much. It's really slow, but that was the reason I was there, to kind of cultivate those relationships. But it was all trial and error. But I will say that even now I still struggle with fabric development and understanding what fabrics to use on what style, but I'm also not afraid to say I don't know what I'm doing. If I'm with my pattern maker and I know construction in and out, and I can tell her that's not right. But I'm you know what, this fabric I want to use it, but I'm a little iffy. Tell me if it's gonna work. Gotcha. And I'm open to that feedback. I'm not oh no, I know what I'm doing, because I don't know everything. I don't, and I'm not gonna lie I do. And some things just don't work, and I'm you know what, Krystal, you was doing too much, or that doesn't make sense. Ask the question next time. But gotcha. Yeah.
How did you, navigate through the garment district? Because I think that some people get a little, intimidated, to do the tours and stuff, get a little intimidated by it. And how did you go out and find your manufacturers? Did you just get referrals or recommendations from other people, or did you just hit the ground and it was just I'm just going to go in these buildings and figure it out?
To be honest, I've been working with in the beginning, I worked with my sample and pattern makers from my old job. So I met them all through my old colleague and just working with them in the office. And then my sister, honestly, she's probably found most of the other pattern makers. The one I work with now is my sole pattern maker. She found her on Craigslist. Her name is Just Ramona, and she is great. Oh, nice. I found her on Craigslist. But factories also is just word of mouth, and going into fabric stores, going there so often and just speaking to the owners and speaking to people hey, I need to get this done. How can I get this done? Where can I get this done? And just asking the questions. And then if I'm walking by someone, I'm does that say factory? Oh. Right. You go downstairs and see what's going on. And literally just popping up hi, I'm Krystal. I need help with X, Y, and Z. Can you? That's it. Mm-hmm.
See, and honestly, that's how I learn. I learned from doing that, just getting out there and just figuring it out and going. I would literally go to one building, start at 13, and just work my way down, pop in, stick my head in places what they doing in here. And I think people, maybe they get intimidated by it, because they not sure how people are going to receive them. But it's just I just feel in entrepreneurship, you got to be a risk taker. Yep. You got to take risks. You got to jump out there. I don't think that it's for the faint and for, I ain't gonna say the weak, but it ain't for the easily timid.
No,
if you
not
timid,
at all.
it's not for you. So I want to kind of jump into, like, I guess, being successful as a designer. What are maybe some things that you learned along the way that you didn't know? And I guess how important is branding to you as we move into this segment? This segment is actually sponsored by Jaleesa Johnson, J&J Legal. They help fashion designers and entrepreneurs build their brands, protect their creativity, and secure their legacy. They offer legal services in trademarks, copyrights, business formation, and contract drafting and revising. You could book a free 15-minute discovery call with them today to get your fashion empire off to the right track. Sooner than later, it's never too late. Visit jnjlegalservices.com. So did you feel like you had to... What do you feel like you did to brand and market it, and how important is it versus design? Because I always tell new designers as they're starting out and stuff like that, like, branding is important. Marketing and understanding who your target consumer is, I think that you should understand that person before you start developing products so that you make sure you're fulfilling their needs. Do you design like that, or do you let fabric, be your inspiration to figure things out? Like, how does your design process work?
My design process has changed and evolved over the years. At first, I was just designing stuff that I thought people would like. It wasn't even like, oh, it's my personal taste. It was just like stuff. And now I feel like I have, working in the industry and on my own stuff, really understand, like, I have to make sure I'm designing for the person that I am targeting.
Right.
And I can't just design things that I see that are familiar or that seem like, oh, well, this is kind of cute. If I'm not loving it, and I don't feel passionate about it, I don't want to put it out. But also, I do feel like when I started Krystals, I wanted to do it, the right way, which there is no right or wrong way, to be honest. But in my mind, I gotta get it right. I started with, I didn't put out product right away. So I was like, let me just start and test the waters. Let me see. I made one sweatshirt, which was the corset hoodie, and I just wanted to get feedback on it. So I made that, and then I did a pop-up shop, and I got feedback on it, and people responded to it. They liked it, but I was looking at the clientele, who's coming up to me, who's actually responding to it. In my mind, my customer was a little bit more mature, around my age, so I'm 32, going to be 33, but in that age range, but can span beyond that. So I wanted to make sure it still felt felt youthful, but still sophisticated. That's how I dress.
We're the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, girl. We young out here.
Exactly. So your sister's 36?
Yeah.
We're exactly. My sister's 36.
Yep.
We're going to be best
I feel
friends.
like that's how people have children. Back in the days, 4 years apart because they need a break. I understand. But yeah, I feel like branding is very important because you can design amazing product, and if you don't know who you're targeting, it won't sell. It'll just sit there. It'll just be on your beautiful website, and you're not making money on it. So I decided to kind of invest in that. So when I was developing my website, I had made my own template on Shopify, and I was doing it myself when I had my blog. So I started doing this blog too, and just to see what traffic I got to the site, and I got a bunch of views every single day, and I try to post every day, but then that goes up and down at times. You're trying to figure out content, but I try to base who's coming to see what I'm writing. And, the photos I'm posting are reminiscent of my personal style and the style that I'm trying to portray in my clothing line. How can I correlate that into my actual collection? How can I kind of merge the two? And looking at the analytics from Shopify. So it was and Instagram, my age range was 35 to 45 was a sweet spot. So I'm like, interesting. But I still had a good 25 to 35 following. But I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm trying to think of functional pieces for that woman. What's her life like? And, where do I see her? Obviously, my sales would tell more of who that true customer is. I'm still in the beginning stages of it, but I had to identify that in order to build the collection, and making sure that I kind of service what their lifestyle was. But branding is important, and I invested in that. And I always say this: scared money don't make no money. If you're not going to spend the money to invest in the things that you find important, not everything you have to spend money on and pour money into, but branding is important.
Yeah. I think it should be in my opinion, I feel like you should put more money in that than you're doing into the product. And I don't know why I feel that way, but I just felt because you can make beautiful things, but if you can't sell it, then you just wasted your money. So it's just if you can brand it and really put a little bit more of a budget into branding, you can sell a fucking t-shirt. You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
You know what I mean?
That is a fact.
That's why I feel like branding is more important than the product is sometimes, because if you can, like my mother said, you can say water to a well if you got the good branding going on.
That is a fact. If you have amazing product and your site looks like trash, or your packaging isn't good, or you're not really promoting it, and your promotions are not aligning with your target customer, that's just a waste of time. Like, and really understanding how to promote things. I have never, done so much research, made so many calls, and made so many friends in my life, because I'm a very like an introverted person. I stay to myself and I'm fine, but I'm like, you know what, this is my dream. I have to learn, so I'm gonna learn, and I have to spend money, and I did. And I feel like my website and my branding and everything that I'm doing is still trial and error. I'm still learning, but it's kind of weaving into this like story that I want to tell, and it's really resonating with people I want it to resonate with. So I would say spend the money. And
when you were, I guess when you were working in the industry, were you your only black girl in a lot of your positions?
I was the only black girl in a lot of the rooms I was in. So I ran this brand called JM Collection for Macy's, but I ran the knit category, which is the biggest category of that brand, and it made the most money. And I was the manager, and I had 4 direct reports underneath me. And every time I would like have a meeting or host a room, people, not to say wouldn't acknowledge me, but they would just kind of be like,
not the face.
Like, and it wasn't like, it was hit or miss at times. It's kind of like, what is going on? Like, who is this person? Or my assistants would be sitting next to my associates, and they would speak to them. And I'm like, can I get up? I'm like, my name is Krystal. I'm here to run the buy meeting. I have my buy recommendations. It took a lot of time for people to trust me. And I wondered why. One, and I'm not going to say this to toot my own horn, but I really do feel like I did an amazing job as a product development manager. And I looked the part, I spoke the part, I walked the part. I did everything that I was supposed to do, and I made myself proud. And I feel like that intimidated some people. Like, I would get dressed to go to work. I like to get dressed up. Like, that's just me. Like, right. Where you going?
I noticed that, like, from work, because I was a product development manager. And same thing, like, I get dressed up, I have clothes on, like, I'm going to be me. And the way I speak with diction in my voice, just like how you do. And, like, I'm very, direct and transparent, like that. And it can be intimidating. Yep. And somebody told me at one time, and I'm like, well, if you're intimidated by me, that's like a you problem.
Right. It's not a me problem.
That's not my problem. That's your problem. Like, not at all. Like, and also when she said it, when she told me I was intimidated, I was just like, but we're talking about you not actually putting the correct information in the tech pack. So what does me being intimidated have to do with you doing your job?
Trying to project,
and I'm just like,
make you feel bad for doing your job because she has some shortcomings, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm not here for that. That's not for me.
I checked her right in her place, y'all. I was just like, that sounds like a problem. That sounds like a personal problem. That ain't my problem.
See, that was my thing. Like, I didn't do that up front, and I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I always want to be polite. I always want to be like nice. I don't like to be mean to people. Like, that's just not. I have an attitude at times. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like and dainty and like so soft spoken. But I didn't want to be rude. But I remember one time I had this boss, and she was my senior manager at the time. And she asked me to send an email to overseas for something. And I thought it was dumb, to be honest. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not doing that. And she was like, so we were in the buy market, and they talked about the style. And she was like, well, did you reach out up to overseas about it? I said no, because I know what they're going to tell me. She goes, well, it would have been nice if you reached out so we can give the buyers an accurate answer in the middle of the meeting in front of everyone. And I kind of said, do you mind stepping outside, please? And that was the first time I ever said, because normally I'm like, Krystal. And I was like, how you spoke to me was very disrespectful, and I would never speak to you that way, and don't speak to me that way again. And ever since that day, she's never, like, been snippy at me, and I realized, like, you gotta stand up for yourself. I don't have to be rude, but I have to stand up for myself, and I've done that ever since, and people know, don't play with me. Don't try me. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it. If I'm not wrong, like, don't do that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's another thing, too. I was reading, did you read that article that came out when it was just talking about what it's really like to be black in fashion?
I did not.
It had a whole bunch of excerpts just like from different people in the industry. That's what prompted this podcast, because it was just an article that came out. I want to say I've been doing this podcast for almost 3 years. It came out like 3 years ago, and it just had all these different excerpts from different black people that work in the industry. And one of them was saying that we just so happy to be in the room that we be quiet. And we just so happy to be there because we're the only black person in some of these, fashion corporate jobs, that we be quiet and we don't own our voice. And that, it should be the opposite. Like, we have to be the ones to speak up and have to say something, like, if something is not right. Because we were talking about, and it made me think about, like, when the monkey got on the shirt and, like, H&M was like, how many people, I know H&M had got at least one black person in that, but somebody had to have caught it. Somebody, but they probably saw it. but they didn't open up their mouth.
They felt like they shouldn't. That's not
they
their
shouldn't.
place,
And then like when it comes to certain things, I think that happens. Like we get into a space where we feel like we shouldn't say something, but you have to use your voice. You have to speak up. You have to say something. You know, and it, to me, it's like my grandfather used to always say, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything.
That's
so
true.
if that's a risk of you think you might lose your job just because you spoke up, which I don't feel like is a good reason to let somebody go, because they were just like, yo, this is
then
my
that place
opinion.
is not for you.
Yeah, and if they let you go, then they let you go. Like, and then that's that, you know. But that is you have to use your voice at all times. And question, now I'm thinking about that because we're talking about the buy-in. Do you feel like, does Macy's, well, maybe in your apartment, do they buy from Black designers? Like, is that like a thing, or do they typically work with like people that hold licenses? Like they buy from like PH Group, like for like the Calvin Klein and different stuff like that. They buy from designers.
From designers as well. It's not a big percentage, but I worked on the private brands end. But like I have some friends in buying, and I have one friend who did men's contemporary like streetwear, and he bought from different designers too. So,
did you feel like Black designers were pretty prominent at Macy's at all? Not at all.
No.
They need to have an
there
initiative
wasn't even
for that.
a lot of Black executives, much less designers.
Oh Lord.
It's so funny. My mentor, Sharifa Murdoch, I spoke to her the other day, and I like showed her my collection. She was like, "Oh, I love it," and she sent it to one of her colleagues that's a buyer. And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm just happy that you look at it." She was like, "No, don't ever say you're just happy to be here. You worked hard, and you deserve all of your flowers while you're alive, pretty much." And I was like, "You know what? You're right." As I was leaving my job at Macy's, my senior VP knew me as the girl that was always going to tell her, that ain't right. That ain't it. And she's like, well, Krystal, what do you think? I know you're going to tell me what you think, but let me just ask you. I'm like, yeah, because if it don't make sense, it don't make sense. If it makes sense, I'm like, all right, cool, fine. But I feel like if you don't have a voice, then who are you? You're just a seat filler. And why would you want to, not say why, but some people like to just be in a place, get paid, and go home. But I'm the type of person, I'm passionate about what I do. And if I can't make an impact, or you can't listen to me and trust what I'm saying, I have to show and prove that you can trust me, of course. But if I've shown and proved multiple times, I'm just going to sit there and be meek and be in the corner. No, I'm always going to speak up. I don't care who's in the room. And I may be afraid to say what I'm going to say, but I'm still going to say it. Like, Thanks. I am still going to, in my mind, formulate, okay, how am I going to say it? But I'm going to say something, because that's just me.
All right. So I have a segment called It's a Success or It's a Disaster.
Okay.
So tell me about like a time in your career or in like your role to entrepreneurship that you, something went completely to hell. Like it went to shit, and then but you learned something from the task or the experience that basically made you a better designer, a better fashion professional. Like what went bad, and you was just like, you know what, this is what I'm moving forward with, and this is the only way I'm gonna do it.
I feel like I rushed through everything, and I feel like that showed in a lot of my previous collections, and some of my collections, not one piece sold. So in my mind, that's a disaster. Period. No matter and to me, it was like, you get what you put into it.
Right.
And if I'm rushing it and I'm not like putting my all into this, then why would I expect people to see and believe in it? So I've learned now, and my sister may want to kick me after saying this now, after we done stopped working together, not working by myself, to stop being lazy. Like I am a Leo, and I can be so lazy, but I can be so like, go get it. Mm-hmm. To really plan and to be thoughtful and think things through. But if I can think of one instance that was just like a hot mess. Oh, my first pop-up shop with my sister. We had, getting production done, and I had to come down here to Brooklyn to get some samples. And I made like this slip dress in this metallic cupro fabric.
Okay.
Woven.
Metallic cupro woven slip dress.
Did not drape at all.
Yeah, I'm like, cupro.
Oh my God. And that was my first collection. So I'm like, oh, it's gold, it's cute. And the fabric was so damn expensive. That was another fail on my part. Mm-hmm. And we did like a mini runway show. And granted, we fitted in fabric that was nothing close to cupro, like nothing close to it. So we the girls put it on. She couldn't even get it over her hips, and the back is just like standing out. And I'm like, this is supposed to drop down, and we had to send it out on the runway. So I was mortified, because I'm like, what kind of dumb shit is this? Like, people want to see this and be like, they thought they was doing something, right? Because that ain't it. And I was like, Krystal, one, I wasted so much money on that fabric, and I got it at, I don't want to say B&J fabrics.
B&J is expensive.
You don't go if you want to make one cute little sample, and you're not doing production on it, it's like a special piece, fine. But Why was I going there to buy production fabric? I don't know, but you live and you learn. But
I just, how much was it a yard? I'm just curious.
It probably was like $87 a yard.
How much?
80 something a yard.
Baby.
To do a size run, which was...
Honey.
So now I negotiate every single thing too. That's another thing that I've learned, to negotiate. But also the fabric, go back to that fabric point, asking the question. I was too embarrassed to say I didn't know what I was doing, especially with my older sister. Like, I was like, I know what I'm doing. I work in fashion. I got a degree in fashion. I know what I'm doing. And not being humble enough to say, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't know if this is going to work. This don't look right. But I was like, no, this is fine. This is fine. And not understanding like certain, like speaking up in terms of construction. So I knew what I was saying, but I wasn't confident at that time. So I'm like, maybe you should cut this on the bottom. Like something to make it drape. And I didn't say any of those things.
Gotcha.
So we wasted all this money.
And the seamstress and the person who cut didn't say nothing either.
Nope.
See, that's another thing, too. When you're working with people, I feel like you got to make sure you're working with people that have integrity, because some people will just do the work and not call out with, like, why didn't you just say something? Mm-hmm. Like, you knew something was wrong and you didn't say anything. And I've seen that happen multiple times. I've seen somebody get their fabric ordered and sent directly to the factory, and then the factory would see all the stains and the miscoloration. They would make it anyway. It's like, now you made 7 dresses with stains on them, and you know I can't sell it. And then one of them, it was like a coated wax denim. It was one of my clients. It was a coated wax denim, but she was in a rush and she didn't want to just let me manage her project. She kept trying to take over. So I'm like, let me check the fabric first. Let me do this. And she kept trying to push me out of it. I'm like, let me just do my job. And she went ahead and did everything with the lady, and then she pulled me in afterwards.
Yeah, see that?
And when she pulled me in afterwards, I'm like, sis, you got 7 dresses. You can't sell these, and you can't take it to the dry cleaner either. She's like, can you just take it to the dry cleaner? Like, it'll be fine. I'm like, I'm telling you, like,
it's not. And people
took it to the dry cleaner, honey, that shit got messed up.
It's coated. Like,
it was awful. I was just like, I told you. But I feel like the factory should have said something. Of course. If you get fabric and it's, you roll it all out, you order a whole bunch of yardage and they're rolling it out, they can see it. So I'm just like, if I don't work with the factory, and that's another thing. It wasn't a factory that I worked with. She asked me did I mind working with factories that I wasn't in, like, my Rolodex, and I was just like, I mean, if you trust them, like, but I don't know anything about them, and I'm like, if you have the relationship, I don't mind taking over. But I was just like, I would never work with a factory like that, because, like, they're not even gonna say anything. So you got to be choosy about who you work with too, because they knew that shit wasn't gonna drape when they cut it, and they didn't tell you, and that's not cool.
Exactly. And that was a thing. Like, they just,
I think we got a whole bunch of questions to slide this forward. So I'm like, this is not a Q&A, but it might be just be comments. I'm just like, it's not a Q&A, but I just want to see.
People just want money. And that's how I see it. And like now, the old Krystal, the less mature Krystal, and her 25-year-old Krystal would have, in this moment, want to do everything on her own. Now I'm like, you know what? I don't have great partnerships with factories to do production. So my pattern maker does, and she charges me a small fee. I don't mind paying that fee to get it done right. Right. I do not mind, because I've tried it my way and, trying to finesse and do and cut corners and it doesn't work. And I'm not saying I can't get to that point where I can manage relationships and all that, but I'd rather focus my time and energy on, one, selling my product and advertising it and marketing it, versus having to run to a factory when I can literally hire someone to do that whose expertise is in that. Right. And learning your strengths and cultivating those things and, outsourcing the things that you're not as good at is kind of the way you should go.
I think, I think the trial and error, and for me, I feel like I would have not wasted so much money if I didn't think I knew it all. I know a lot now, but like when I first started out, I wasted so much money just doing and thinking that I knew it all and that I had it all figured out, opposed to seeking advice or just working under someone, because I hopped out of college and was just like, I'm about to be an entrepreneur. Where it's like I did work for other companies, but to me, I think I tried to hop into entrepreneurship too fast. Like I was young, and then even when I got here, I opened up a studio in Williamsburg when I first got here. And then when I think back on it, in Williamsburg, and when I think back on it, I be cracking up, because it's like, how the hell you open a studio? You ain't got no damn clients. You just moved here.
But so you're like ambitious though.
Yeah, at the time it made like perfect sense. Like, I'm moving to New York, I opened up a studio. Why? First of all, you got an apartment and you're not used to paying this rent as it is. So this is new. You're gonna go get a studio, take your refund check money, put it all into the studio. You don't have no goddamn clients, sis. You don't even have a collection yet. Like, you don't have anything. And you decide to take the little bit of money that you got and to go buy a whole bunch of furniture from IKEA and pattern making tables and sewing machines and all this stuff. Now what? It's not like you have a collection that you're working on. It's not like you have a clientele. Like, why? Girl, 'cause I thought I knew it all.
Right. And you want to rush and do everything. It's about pacing. And I'm learning that because my end goal is, obviously, I said I wanted to have 2 clothing lines, one for, Krystal, and then Avery Kensington would be my little girl's line. But I want to have a studio as well. But I'm trying to pace myself because I want it now.
Girl, but studio didn't have nothing.
No, I can't do that. I can't afford it. And 2, it's just not a smart business move. But you have to learn. You have to go through those experiences to really learn what's a smart business move or not.
Yeah, I definitely learned. I had to learn the hard way. My mother called those bought lessons. Like, you paid for that shit. Like, if you you paid for that lesson because it was just so stupid. And I could have just worked for someone. But you know what it was? Right. It was so hard coming here trying to find a job in the industry. I had a design degree, and then all of my experience was in retail management. But I got up in retail management so fast that I didn't feel like I had nowhere else to go. Like, I was managing stores before I even left Chicago, and I was 24. So when I came here, and I'm trying to get into, like, these fashion companies, they were trying to give me entry-level money. And I'm just like, I've been a store manager for the last 3 years. Like, I was making $60,000 coming out of Chicago. I expect to make even more here. Right. And everything I was getting offered was like $30 a year or $40 a year. And I'm just like, I couldn't even survive off of that in Chicago. And New York is like 2 times the amount. That's how much I made out. I don't know, but my dumb ass was just like, well, if I start my own business, I'm just going to automatically make the money. Like, it just was so
because we're so naive. And there's a blessing and a curse in being naive. Like, because you don't have any fear. You're like, I'm just going to do it. Now I'm like, okay, no. Because remember the last time you was like so impulsive. But then you have to balance that. Because you can't just be like, no. You got to like give and take. But
absolutely. That is hilarious. So, my last segment is called It's a Muse. Just tell us about like something that inspires you and motivates you. It's probably Avery. But something that inspires and motivates you that you want to share with like another designer, that maybe it could be a book or a mantra or an affirmation or anything that, really just kind of keeps you going.
Honestly, my daughter definitely inspires me, but also the feeling of failing myself. I don't want to feel like I failed myself, like I sold myself short and I didn't give my all to something that I really wanted to do. So that is really what makes me keep going. But if I can share something that inspires me, I'm not your typical designer where I look at abstract things and I'm so inspired. Like, I'm not that girl, and I wish I was that girl, but I'm not. I look at what people wear. That inspires me, like clothes and how you style yourself. Like, oh, that's how I think of like a design. But there's this one book that I have now that I like. It's called is it the Black Vanguard, I believe?
Black Vanguard.
I believe it's that.
Okay.
And it's like a book of all Black fashion photography. Mm-hmm. And if you read the articles and you see just understanding how young Black creatives are so dope, I think that is like one thing that really, really inspires me, because I feel like a lot of times, especially growing up, I didn't feel like Black people can be in this space. Mm-hmm. Like we weren't luxurious if we were in this space. It's either we're like streetwear or like, and not to say that streetwear can't be luxurious, but I never really saw a representation of us in a luxury space with the Gucci's and Louis Vuitton. I've never seen that. And then when I got this book, I got it like in the middle of the pandemic, but it really, really like just made me believe even more that take up all the spaces. Like, don't.
I hear that.
Don't hold this corner. Take up the space.
That's the name of the.
That's the name of my segment on my blog. It's called Take Up Space.
Yep. I'm like, ain't that the name of
And I interview people and women who take up space, who say, you know what, I'm gonna go after what I want. I'm going to do it. I'm not gonna half step it. I'm gonna do it, which is why I featured you on my blog, because you are doing it, and I see the hustle, I see the grind, and it's very inspiring. But why get a piece of it when you can have all of it? I'm not saying when you get all of it, you can share with other people.
I hear that. I love that. That segment is actually brought to you by the Brownstone Experience. It's a wellness, fashion, and beauty experience aside of the Black women community. We are currently sourcing Black-owned designers to add to their monthly collections. They are open to building creative partnerships with Black-owned products and brands. They understand that the old retail model does not work for both parties, and they are ready to create a new and innovative approach to meet their clients. So I feel like you should partner with the Brownstone Experience. They're amazing, and they're actually based in Texas.
You featured them on the Black and Fashion podcast.
Mm-hmm. I posted them a lot. They're one of our sponsors. Yeah,
always. I read that.
Yeah, I was like, they're great. I love that. I love Faison DeVie. They have us a retail space in Philly. Mm-hmm. They don't want nothing but Black and like local like designers and stuff like that. So that's why I'm just trying to connect everybody and bring everyone together.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. I was gonna visit this TA New York. Is also a Black-owned store in the city on 13th Street. The first time I'm going is tomorrow. I just want to see it. Like, nice. I want to see Black people doing dope stuff, and it's like all curated. designers, and it's all like exclusive things. So I'm excited for stuff like that. That stuff brings me joy. Like that motivates me. Like, you know what? Yes, sis, I see you.
Right,
like we could do this.
Yeah. And that's also like, and I hope you do our next one, our Black and Fashion pop-ups. So we did one in October. We did one for Black Friday. We did one in November. So we're gonna try to take it on the road too, but make sure that we do at least 2 or 3 in New York and stuff too. But just bringing like Black creators and stuff like that.
Definitely will.
And doing the pop-ups. Like we had a really good turnout at the last two, so I hope you do it in the future.
Definitely.
Yes.
I'll let me know. Well, I'll look it up. Obviously, I see a follow the page and I'll see it. But I'm all down to do it.
I'll send you a direct one. I'll send you a direct one.
I'm in there, guys.
So our last sponsor is Chase Jackson Accounting. If you need help with your accounting finances, they are an accounting and advisory company that's here to help you with your small business needs, from business formation, accounting services, and taxes. So they're actually the accountant for LC Apparel Consultant, and I always like to make sure I mention, just when you don't think you need an accountant, you actually do. You feel like you have to make a certain amount of money to have one, but they're there to advise you and make sure that the money that you do have, that you're allocating your dollars in the right way. Because I figured out all the different mistakes I made last year and all the money that I wasted. I was like, damn, I should have just asked for some advice.
True.
That's all I really needed, was to ask for like some advice,
I incorporated my company in 2019, in December 2019. I'm like, I'm going to file taxes on this. Mm-hmm. Yes, you do. I got a $2,000 fine. I'm like, because I didn't file it until the middle of 2020, because I'm like, I didn't do nothing. I filed it 2 weeks before the year was over. Why do I have to file?
I didn't file. You know what's crazy? I didn't file LC Apparel Consultant until last March. I just did that, and I've been in business for like 3 years, and I just filed it. So hopefully I don't get no penalty, but I just like, and I was talking to Jaleesa legally. You don't technically have to file that stuff until you actually start making some money. Because all you got to do, like, you can file it, but then you have to keep putting in and putting zero. So even if you have yourself incorporated, you have to go in and keep putting in zero. So I've done that.
Yeah. So that's a lesson learned too. Like, manage your books.
Yeah, definitely manage your books.
Manage your books, and I would say get a software that will help you manage that.
QuickBooks.
I use QuickBooks, and it's super easy. But yeah, I learned that. I'm like, that
2,000, right? 2,000. Girl, I just got fined $2,000 for not having workers' comp last June.
Oh,
supposed to have it at a certain amount. I just found that. I was just like, wow, like I would have just got it back then. I didn't know, like, but just staying on top of things. I should have known. You start getting employees, it's different,
True.
So I'm just like, and I ain't know nothing, and that's why
that's the next level.
That's why I got a $2,000 fine right now. But just throw out all your social media, how they can, take a look at your blog and your collection. And Krystal's actually wearing some of her pieces. This is one of my favorites. This is her silk. It's like a silk shirt dress. I love it. I've already sent it to my little boo. He's gonna see it. Hopefully he can buy it for me. If not, it's okay, because I'm by myself, because she take Afterpay too.
I do, guys. Yeah. So my site is www.kaphil.com. KAPHILL. You can catch me on Instagram at KaphilOfficial, on Facebook at KaphilOfficial also, as well as Pinterest at KaphilOfficial. My blog is called The World of Kaphil, and you can access that through my website, and you'll see The World of Kaphil in the drop down. And subscribe and sign up. You get 10% of your first order when you subscribe. Nice. And you join The World of Kaphil, and you get perks and discounts and different promos and invited to events. I am going to be doing a few events this summer, a pop-up in June, collaborating with 2 of my good friends who are also in business, and then a dinner just to celebrate us, Take Up Space. And I also do a Take Up Space feature every month. Lanice was one of them, but I am starting up again. It's going to be a virtual one versus a written article, because I know sometimes you don't want to read. You just want to, watch. So catch me this Saturday on IG Live with the language of Yolanda. But yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for coming and spending time with us at the Black and Fashion Podcast. So, as I always say, guys, make sure you buy black, recycle that black dollar, keep it in your community, and stay black. Peace out.